She's probably carrying something. I don't feel safe sitting near her. The words sliced through the air like broken glass. Amara heard them clearly, even over the hum of the jet engines outside. She was standing quietly by seat 1A, gently placing her gold carry-on bag in the overhead compartment. Her red jumpsuit shimmered slightly under the cabin lights, and her silver heels clicked softly against the carpeted floor. But it wasn't the outfit that turned heads. It was her presence, her skin, her confidence. She was a tall, stunning black woman with soft natural hair puffed up into a glorious crown, cheekbones kissed by melanin, and lips painted in matte burgundy. But to the rest of the first-class cabin filled with high-society white passengers, she was an intruder. A white woman in pearls pulled her purse closer. "Are we just letting anyone buy tickets now?" she whispered to the man beside her. Amara didn't flinch. Not yet. She took her seat and crossed her legs slowly, eyes forward, posture calm. But inside, she felt the weight of every eye, every insult, every unspoken judgment. She'd been in far worse situations before. Guns to her head, bombs seconds from exploding, enemies who smiled and then tried to stab her in the back. But nothing ever compared to the silent war of racism in elite spaces. "I want a seat change," said a man in a navy blue blazer. "I don't feel safe next to her. These people are known for stealing." Amara turned her head slowly and looked at him. Just looked. No words. Her eyes were calm, steady, and full of knowing. He looked away first. The air hostess, young and nervous, offered a weak smile. "Ma'am, can I offer you champagne?" "No," Amara said quietly. "Water. Cold." She was calm, but her mind was already calculating, observing. That man in the back seat with the Rolex? Former banker, possibly fake. The older lady with designer bags who kept staring? Nervous hands, shallow breath, hiding something. The tall man in Gucci sunglasses who refused to take them off, even inside the cabin? Red flag. She always scanned people. It was second nature. Because Amara wasn't just flying for vacation. She was CIA. And her instincts never failed her. The intercom buzzed. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We'll be flying at 39,000 feet today to Monaco. Expected time, 6 hours and 42 minutes. Please fasten your seatbelts and prepare for takeoff." The cabin dimmed slightly as the engines roared to life. But just before the plane lifted off, the woman beside Amara shifted in her seat and muttered, "I hope she's not carrying drugs." Amara's jaw clenched, but still, she said nothing. They weren't worth it. Not yet. The plane climbed steadily into the sky. Amara gazed out the window. The clouds stretched like oceans. A fresh start. A break. A silent promise that for once, just once, she would get to enjoy something just for herself. No missions. No weapons. No secrets. Just ocean breeze and luxury shopping in Monaco. Or so she thought. 15 minutes into the flight, drinks were served. The same people who insulted her were now laughing, drinking, bragging about yachts, estates, and generational wealth. Amara simply sipped her water and smiled softly to herself. But then came the moment that shifted everything. A loud clatter came from the back of the plane. "Hey, what are you doing?" Gasps filled the cabin. The same man in Gucci sunglasses had stood up, pulled a black bag from under his seat, and in one quick motion, pulled out a gun. The air hostess screamed. Someone knocked over a tray. The rich man beside Amara dropped his glass and dove to the floor. "Everyone shut up and sit down," the man screamed. The plane jolted slightly. Turbulence? No, panic. Amara's pulse didn't change. Her eyes, however, locked onto the man immediately. Leon Greaves. Arms dealer. Wanted in 6 countries. He had been on her watch list for months. And now? He was here. Hijacking her flight. Passengers began crying. One woman screamed she had kids. A rich elderly man beside Amara began to tremble and wheeze, his chest rising unevenly. "I think he's having a heart attack," someone yelled. But no one moved. No one helped. Except Amara. She knelt beside the man, opened her bag, and pulled out a small white case. "Sir," breathe. Deep, slow breaths. "You'll be fine." Leon's voice thundered through the cabin again. "You, what are you doing? Sit down." Amara looked up, and for the first time, she spoke not with fear, but with power. "Leon grieves," she said, standing slowly. "Interpol's most wanted man. You've got 5 minutes before I take you down. Choose wisely." The cabin froze. Everyone turned. Mouths dropped open. Who was this woman? And why did the man with the gun suddenly look scared? You could have heard a pin drop. The rich passengers who had spent the first hour of the flight mocking Amara now watched her in absolute shock. She stood tall, firm, her face calm as stone, staring down a man with a loaded gun, and she wasn't blinking. Leon Greaves narrowed his eyes, still pointing the weapon directly at her. "You don't know who you're talking to." Amara tilted her head, unbothered. "Oh, but I do. You were in Berlin last fall, slipped through airport security with a fake Saudi passport. You funded an arms shipment to Lagos that left 89 children dead. You wear designer clothes to hide your dirty money. But here's what you didn't know." She reached slowly into her back pocket. Several passengers gasped. "She's going to pull a weapon," a man cried out. But Amara only retrieved a small black leather badge case and flipped it open. The golden eagle emblem glimmered in the cabin light. "Amara Mboya, CIA. And congratulations, Leon, you just hijacked a plane with an agent on board." Leon's lips parted slightly. His gun hand trembled for a second. Silence. Then rage filled his eyes. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Amara took a step forward. Leon jerked back slightly, panicked, then turned to the other passengers and shouted, "SIT down." "This isn't a game." A woman screamed. The pilot's voice broke through the intercom again. "Please, sir, let's not escalate this. We can discuss terms." "Shut up," Leon shouted at the ceiling. He was sweating now. The gun waved through the air like a loose flag. And yet, Amara didn't flinch. She moved slowly, one step at a time, voice low and controlled. "You're panicking, Leon. Your backup isn't here, is it? You were supposed to meet someone in Monaco. You thought this would be a clean escape. Don't test me, woman." He raised the gun. For a second, everyone held their breath. But Amara's voice dropped even lower. She wasn't just speaking to him anymore. She was controlling the entire cabin. "If you shoot me, Leon, you'll never make it out alive. There are air marshals already on standby. The moment we land, the jet will be surrounded. You'll die in front of cameras, in front of the world." But she paused. "If you surrender now, you'll go to prison. Quietly. You might even get a deal." Leon blinked fast. Sweat beaded his forehead. A trembling white man in the third row whispered, "Is she serious? Is she really CIA?" Another man answered, "She just saved someone's life, didn't she?" The old man Amara helped earlier was now sitting up, breathing normally, eyes full of quiet gratitude. One of the hostesses stepped forward slightly. She's not afraid of him." Leon looked around the cabin and saw it. The fear was shifting, no longer directed at him, but toward her. The mystery woman in red who didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't fold. "I swear, if any of you try anything, you're not in control anymore." Amara cut in. "Give me the gun." For a tense second, it seemed he might pull the trigger. But then, he lowered it. He dropped the gun slowly to the carpet. It clattered to the floor. A sigh spread like a wave across the plane. Some passengers broke into quiet sobs. Others stared at Amara with wide, disbelieving eyes. Amara stepped forward and kicked the gun away, then turned to the pilot through the intercom. "This is CIA Agent Amara Mboya. Suspect disarmed. Initiate emergency landing protocol. I'll send live GPS coordinates. Please stay calm. She paused, turned toward the passengers, and said clearly, "We are no longer in danger." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the same woman who clutched her pearls earlier, the one who didn't want to sit beside Amara, stood up and said, I'm sorry. I didn't know." Amara gave her a single glance. "You didn't want to know." The woman nodded and sat down in shame. A few others mumbled apologies, but Amara didn't acknowledge them. She walked quietly back to her seat, sat down, crossed her legs again, and closed her eyes. Just like before. But this time, the cabin stayed silent. Respectfully silent. She wasn't the black woman they didn't want to sit beside anymore. She was the reason they were still breathing. "This is your captain. We have begun our descent." The voice crackled through the overhead speaker as the jet gently dipped through layers of clouds. Passengers clutched armrests, bags, and each other, not from turbulence, but from emotions they couldn't name. What do you do after your life is saved by the same woman you look down on? They stared in silence at the back of Amara's head. She sat calmly by the window, still in her red jumpsuit, now speaking softly into a tiny communication device embedded in her earring. "Target surrendered. Weapon secured. I've got the passengers under control. Emergency protocols confirmed. Monaco runway 27 be requested. Let's keep the media away for now." She ended the call and folded her hands on her lap. Not one person said a word to her. Not out of fear, out of awe, and for some, guilt. "Thank you, miss," the old man she helped whispered, his voice shaky. "I don't even know how to repay you." "You don't have to," Amara said gently. "Just remember this the next time you judge someone because of their skin." He looked down, ashamed. The woman in pearls kept opening her mouth and closing it again like she wanted to say sorry, but didn't know how. Beside her, the man who once accused Amara of being a thief now stared out the window in silence, tears glistening in his eyes. The plane landed. Police vehicles lined the runway like a parade. Sirens off, lights on. Reporters were already outside the gate, their cameras flashing like lightning behind the glass. As soon as the jet came to a halt, 2 Interpol agents boarded and handcuffed Leon Greaves. His sunglasses were off now, and his designer clothes looked cheap against the shame smeared across his face. He didn't resist. Not in front of her. Agent Boya, the Interpol officer, nodded. "We've been after him for 2 years. Good work." "I was just flying for vacation," she smiled lightly. "The universe chose my seat." As they led the criminal away, a thunderstorm of flashbulbs erupted outside. But the story wasn't over yet, because the passengers were now facing their most difficult journey, not through the air, but through accountability. The news broke within minutes. Black woman saves flight from hijacker. CIA agent stuns world. The woman they feared became their savior. Who is Amara Boya? By the time Amara stepped off the jet and into the private lounge, the media had flooded the airport. Paparazzi fought for photos. Social media boiled with hashtags. Hashtag Amara the hero. Hashtag Black Queen CIA. Hashtag she saved us all. Some people begged for interviews. Others offered free hotel suites. Even the Monaco president's office sent a black car to pick her up. But Amara? She declined it all. She walked past the flashing lights, her heels tapping the polished floor, bodyguards clearing her path. One little girl in the crowd, a tiny black girl with her hair in puffs, clutched her mother's hand and whispered, "Mama, she looks like me." Amara paused. She bent down, smiled, and touched the girl's cheek. "You're powerful. Never let anyone make you small, okay?" The girl nodded, starstruck. Her mother teared up. That one moment, more than the headlines, the applause, or the cameras, was the victory Amara cared about. Later that evening, in her hotel suite overlooking the Monaco Sea, Amara finally kicked off her heels and let her body collapse into a velvet armchair. She sighed. She didn't cry. She didn't break, but she allowed herself one moment of stillness. The mission was over. Her vacation, however late, had begun. Her phone buzzed. A message from her superior at Langley. "Proud of you. Entire world watching. Your seat on that plane changed history." She stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed back. "They thought I didn't belong. Now they'll never forget me. Don't ever let them see you cry." Those were her mother's final words. Amara was only 11 years old when her mother died. A woman who worked 3 jobs just to send her to school in Nairobi's upper districts, where she was one of the only black girls in a sea of privilege, pale skin, and whispered insults. She still remembered walking through the school gates, clutching her tattered lunch tin while the other girls in polished uniforms giggled and pointed. "Is that your maid?" "No, that's her mom. She smells like the slums." Amara never said a word, but each word they threw at her became a brick. And over time, she built those bricks into a wall of fire, one they could never burn down. She learned to fight not with fists, but with silence, intelligence, and an unshakable stare. Her mother, a proud seamstress, taught her how to sew not just clothes, but courage into every stitch of her life. And when she passed away from a hospital error that no one cared to fix because they were poor, Amara made a promise by the bedside. "I'll never be powerless again." By the time she was 16, she had taught herself 5 languages. By 19, she had joined a U.S. scholarship program and relocated to Washington, D.C. And by 23, she was in Langley, walking through the CIA gates with her hair in tight curls and her resume sharper than any blade. But getting in wasn't the hardest part. Staying in was. At every corner, she was doubted. White men rolled their eyes. White women whispered about her attitude. Supervisors called her too intense, too confident, too loud. But mission after mission, Amara kept delivering. She brought down a Russian spy ring in Paris, disarmed a bomb in Kenya during a political visit, extracted a kidnapped ambassador from the jungles of Brazil. She didn't do it for medals. She did it for the promise. The little girl she used to be, and the little black girls still growing up in a world that doubted them. But her strength came at a price, because Amara didn't trust love. Not after Daniel. He had been a fellow agent, handsome, brilliant, charming, the first person who truly saw her and didn't flinch. They trained together, fought side by side, shared hotel rooms and wine and secrets. One night, under the stars in Cairo, he told her, "I want to build a life with you, not a mission." Amara wanted it too, but she was scared. She didn't know how to be soft, didn't know how to open her heart without exposing a wound. When she finally tried, it was too late. He died in a crossfire in Berlin, and she hadn't said "I love you" back before he left. That guilt still lived in her ribs like a heartbeat. She buried Daniel in silence. No tears, no funeral speech, just a rose on his grave and a goodbye no one heard. From then on, she promised herself no attachments, only assignments, no vulnerability, only victory. And now, in the Monaco hotel suite, curled in a silk robe with a glass of wine, she stared at the ocean and whispered, "You'd be proud, Daniel." She picked up a worn photo of them from Cairo, both smiling, dusty, and sun-kissed, and kissed the edge. Then she opened her encrypted CIA tablet. A message blinked. "Another flight just booked. Istanbul to Tokyo. We need your eyes on board." She stared at it. Her vacation wasn't even 24 hours in. But she smiled, because Amara wasn't built for lounging in hotels. She was built to protect, to serve, to rewrite stories where women like her were always the side characters. At that very moment, across the world, news channels still played the video of the hijacking. A woman in red standing tall in front of a gunman. The moment he dropped the weapon. The passengers clapping. Her walking out like a queen with no crown, just purpose. Monaco sparkled like a jewel under the night sky. Yachts floated gently on the blue waters, high heels clicked against marble tiles, and chandeliers glittered above heads of state, billionaires, royals, and icons. The invitation had come in gold. Special guest of honor, Monaco Piscella. Amara hadn't wanted to go. She wasn't one for dresses and applause. She preferred silence. She preferred shadows. But something tugged at her soul that evening. A little voice, like her mother's, whispering, "Go. They need to see your face." So she dressed. Not in black like her usual, but in deep red, silk and simple, the same color she wore on the flight, the color they'd never forget. Her natural hair puffed in a soft crown, earrings shaped like the continent of Africa. Lips painted a bold matte wine. She looked like power wrapped in grace. As she entered the gala, the music paused. One by one, people turned. The woman in pearls, the man who called her a thief, the pilot, the press, and the little black girl from the airport, now standing in a white dress with her mother. They all turned to see Amara Mboya walk in, calm and composed, her chin raised like a queen with no castle, but every throne. The MC cleared his throat nervously, fumbling with his cue cards. We are honored tonight to welcome someone whose courage, discipline, and bravery saved not only lives, but revealed the truth about how we still view strength, race, and power in the world. She was judged for her skin, ignored for her gender. Yet she rose above it all and reminded us what true leadership looks like. Applause began to rise. Amara blinked gently, but then came the real twist. From the shadows, a woman stepped out, tall, graceful, dressed in all white, with silver-gray dreadlocks and tears in her eyes. The president of Kenya herself. She took the microphone. "My name is Wanjika Owino, President of the Republic of Kenya. And I flew here personally, not as a leader, but as a daughter of the soil, to stand beside one of our own. A woman whose name now sits in the pages of history. A woman who proved that dignity cannot be bought, that strength cannot be whitewashed." The entire room stood. Amara froze, stunned. President Owino turned to her. "Amara Mboya, on behalf of an entire continent, and especially little girls everywhere with big dreams and brown skin, I present you with this honor, the Medal of Global Heroism, for protecting the people who once feared you, and reminding them that a black woman doesn't need to be loud to be heard. She just needs to show up in her full glory." The medal shone gold and emerald as it was placed around Amara's neck. Tears swelled in her eyes, but they didn't fall. Not yet. Instead, she bowed her head slightly, placed one hand on her chest, and said only 5 words. "I did it for her." There was confusion. Whispers. "For who?" someone asked. Amara lifted her head and looked out at the room, but her eyes weren't focused on the cameras, the politicians, or the applause. They were focused on that little girl in the crowd. For the little girl who once watched her mother cry after being insulted at an embassy, she said softly. For the girl who sat alone in classrooms, surrounded by wealth, but starved of kindness. For the girl who was told she was too much, too loud, too dark, too poor. For the girl who dared to believe she could still rise. Now the room was completely silent. People were crying. Even the pilot who once doubted her. Even the woman who once said she didn't want to sit beside her. Amara took a step back, lifted the medal slightly, and then did something unexpected. She turned and placed the medal around the neck of the little girl. The child's mouth fell open. The room gasped. Amara knelt, cupped her face, and whispered, "Never wait for the world to honor you. Be your own crown." The applause that followed could have broken the sky. Later that night, Amara sat alone on the balcony of her hotel, barefoot, holding a cup of tea. She looked at the ocean. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. It read, "She would be so proud of you. D." Amara smiled. Daniel. Maybe it wasn't his number. Maybe it was someone playing games. Or maybe, just maybe, The universe had its own way of sending love. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She leaned back, looked at the sky, and whispered, "I made it, Mama." This story teaches that. Don't let the world's judgment define your worth. You were born royal. Act like it, walk like it, love like it. A Black woman's power is not in shouting, it's in standing tall even when the room sits down.